You're the calm one. You keep all conversations smooth, you apologize quickly, and you notice tension in a room before anybody else does. And yet, underneath all of that calm, your body is fully tense, and that tension builds up over time. Each conversation you have, you replay it in your head over and over every time it happens, and you feel tired in a way the rest does not seem to fix. And if that sounds familiar, it's not because you care too much. It's because you trained yourself to care for others at the expense of yourself. You trained yourself to use your emotions as the ability to connect by using manipulation without knowing, and subconsciously to express yourself by giving everybody what they need and abandoning yourself at the same time. Therefore, this is not emotional intelligence. This is a survival mechanism that you learned as a little girl. This pattern is called the peacemaker. The peacemaker isn't somebody who necessarily enjoys harmony. It's somebody that has learned that tension early on equals lack of safety and lack of ability for them to be who they needed to be in that moment. So calm became the strategy and understanding became protection. From the outside, it looks kind to everybody else. You're in the middle, you're appeasing, you're being the easygoing one. But from the inside, it is exhausting. It is taxing in your system. It's weighing you down. And most of all, it's masking your authenticity. It's not allowing you to actually express who you are and be the person that you actually want to be. This pattern always begins in an environment where conflict was unpredictable, emotions were volatile, or disconnection followed disagreement. As a child, you learned something important. If things stayed calm, you were able to stay connected. You were able to stay safe. You were able to stay loved. But if there was any tension in the room, any type of disagreement, or any type of conflict, it meant that disconnection, anger, or pushing you out was coming your way. So you adapted quickly. You watched everybody else's moods, you watched their movements, you watched what they needed. And in essence, you became emotionally fluid towards everybody else before you could actually read your own emotions. And this is not because you're weak. It's because you're extremely perceptive. You're empathetic to the people around you, because disconnection and lack of safety meant that you needed to agree in order to be okay in your body. Therefore, the peacemaker develops emotional intelligence way before they receive any emotional support. And here's the part that nobody freaking talks about. People that always fit in, that are always amazing and everybody can get along with, right? The easygoing one. In learning to keep this calm, in learning to go with the flow, the peacemaker, the individual themselves, learn full access to themselves. Anger becomes dangerous. Having preferences, super risky, can lead to rejection, lack of safety. And needs get edited before you can actually even feel them in your body. And therefore, you don't stop having reactions, desires, and wants. They're delayed. They're pushed down. They're put into the body without allowing them to express themselves. And then therefore, you get left behind with what you really desire. And you keep chasing this need to occupy yourself with everybody else's wants and needs. And as a result, these feelings show up later. These wants, desires, they manifest as resentment, as internal anger, as dis-ease, discomfort in the body, and most of all, it can cause you to be extremely exhausted, drained, and tired after interactions with people, especially the loved ones, the ones that you're really, really attuned to, and you tend to follow by watching their emotional needs consistently. And so this cost of being so attentive, of being so caring, and being such a beautiful easygoer is at the cost of your own inner peace, and also not allowing the other person to see you for who you actually are. And this pattern becomes most visible when you're under pressure. You avoid difficult conversations, whether it's with close friends or with partners. You over-explain instead of just state your needs and express yourself. And you might even pride yourself on low maintenance. There's this big thing where we need to be easygoing. Easygoing women are the way to go. But inside of us, there is a little meter that always says, I'm always adjusting to others and nobody's adjusting to me. And this is not because you lack boundaries. It's because there's a belief inside your body that tension, conflict isn't safe. And so this pattern keeps repeating itself continuously in your life now as an adult. So we'll always choose peace at all costs because the belief is so strong. Even if that peace in the moment costs you your energy, your authenticity, your need to actually receive what you need. And here's a loop that keeps this going. Tension and conflict appear, your nervous system goes online, it shuts down your ability to actually express yourself, and then it smooths things over by allowing you to just be present for that other person and giving them exactly what they need. And so smoothing things over becomes the relief that you are seeking, instead of actually seeking to listen to your body to understand what your true needs are. And so while there's this deep-seated belief about safety, it's also driven by a deep-seated need for regulation. This regulation that your body learned around what it needs in order to remain calm and connected with the individual they're being present with. And the longer this continues, the more abandonment there is to who you are, to what you need. And also, the less actual connection you have with the people in your life. And the shift does not begin by speaking up more, setting more boundaries, or being less nice. It begins by recognizing the truth of what's really going on underneath all of this behavior. The truth is, it is not your job to regulate what others are feeling and what their needs are. This sentence alone makes peacemakers uncomfortable. So pause for a moment and just settle into the understanding that it is not your job to regulate other people's needs and emotions. And the reason why this sentence is so uncomfortable for peacemakers is because safety and connection was conditional at a very young age. And so learning to tolerate tension with relationships and situations in your life is the first step to beginning to understand who you truly are, to truly understand what is it that you actually desire. And this is not easy, and you will trip and you will fall and you will do it over and over again until one day it just becomes a habit, like this original habit that you adapted as a child. And so the real work begins by asking yourself, if I didn't rush to make things okay, if I didn't try to smooth over things, say yes when I meant no, what would that look like in my life? So I invite you to just sit for a few minutes and consider what I have just covered about this family archetype, the peacemaker, and see how this might apply to you in your life. I love you. I see you.